Hello and welcome. We're playing Never Second Rome today on the channel. This is a game that's, I think, technically in early access at the moment, but it'll also be the first time it's being played on the channel. I think technically this is the sequel to Legionary's Life that we've played previously on the channel, which is basically a game set in Roman. Unlike a Legionary's Life, where you're playing a legionary, in Never Second Rome, you're playing a sort of mid-level commander in the Legion. So you'll have your own unit here in command of. So let's get into the game. This game I think is going to be a little bit longer because unlike a Legionary's Life, well, like a Legionary's Life, if you die, I'm pretty sure it's over. It's got that sort of permanent death to it. But in this one, because you're in charge of troops, a little less likely to die, at least in my experience. So in this case, this is point buy instead of rolling for it. We got 35 points here. I think you might get more points the deeper into the game you've been for following runs. I have technically not. I think I technically haven't completed a run on this one. I haven't died yet. We're gonna go ahead and I think we'll go more charisma, intellect to this run. Maybe a little bit more awareness. Okay, 60 is where we start paying double for it. Go a little bit more charisma, a little bit more coordination. We'll run those stats. Bonus features. Again, this is something I think you can unlock. Well, as you can see, some effects, right? It's, hey, you've got some minimum requirements, some upper limits. Obviously, that means we're limited which ones of these we can take. We can pick 2 of these features, so we can pick like Talented, Iron-Willed, Astute, Fearless with the set we've took. If we're taking different ones, like if we're taking like 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, or 55 and the 5 physical stats, we could take Athletic, get bonus across the board. So Astute would buff Awareness, Charisma, Intellect at the cost of a little bit of Bravery. Fearless is just plus Bravery. So I think if we take Fearless, we can't take Astute because one has a Bravery cap, so we'd be over the Bravery cap if we took Fearless. Iron Will is maybe not as great as Fearless for generating Bravery, but it gives us Discipline. And it's incompatible with Talented, Bulwark, or Swordmaster. So Iron Will is basically sort of Discipline. It's Discipline. Unit level during battles. Okay, so if we want to be good at command, we probably want to take like Iron-Willed and not Talented. Talented is like we want to be personally really good at fighting, so we'll go Iron-Willed and Fearless for this run. So we can take direct command, which would have given us plus a bunch of money. So we're basically doing the past of our character. How did we get into command? Did we get directly promoted to command, or were we promoted from the ranks? In which case we'd be better at discipline because we have more experience. We'd have better military stats, effectively, or we go with one that has no requirements. I think we're gonna go with the promoted from the ranks. We have the mental stats for it. It makes us a little bit more capable at using weapons and discipline. Though I'm not too worried about money as well. Year 1, we're Librarius, no requirements, +1 intellect. Were we a Consonan, Hornblower, which is awareness, intellect, or were we Tesserarius, which is a guard commander of the century? I think because we're going for something like a commanding role, let's do the guard commander choice. So, to take Cornucolius, which is an important administrative post with the Legion, would have previously needed to be a Legionnaire. We were just a Tesserarius, so we could still be that and double stack the bonus from that. Or we could decide to go for Optio, which would give us an additional charisma. I see no reason not to do that. Or Signifier if we want more bravery and awareness. Standard Bearer of the Century, Precision to Dangerous Vision. So it could be Standard Bearer or Second Command. We'll go Second Command in now. And now we're presented with the choice of either we can go Signifier, which is basically we got promoted to holding the banner, or we can once again be the Optio. I think we're going to stack the charisma up again. So we can be very charismatic leader to our troops. Early career complete. And well, we'll pick a random Nomen. Until we find something I think I can pronounce. Lavinius. Okay. And then we are, well, I am Willicole. 100. There we go. And then we have to pick our second command. So which Optio do you want? Charisma is important. Good awareness and discipline are also desirable. Intellect may help on occasion. So, looking for charisma. We got a bunch of charisma, so not be super weird. So this one's the one with the highest charisma. 4 higher than this one, 3 more higher than even that one. Awareness and discipline. 55, 61. The awareness. Discipline's 50, 48. Okay, I think we're gonna go with the one of the highest awareness here. Or the highest charisma. We're gonna have less awareness, but I think that's fine. Hopefully that's fine. A Sentry in command is a unit commanded by Sentry. As part of a freshly raised legion, your Sentry is very close to the nominal strength of 80 men. 6 Sentries form a cohort, a basic tactical unit in the Roman army, and 10 cohorts form a legion. Armies are usually composed of 7 legions, depending upon the scope and importance of campaign. So we've got our unit is currently only 74 big, so we're actually 6 below nominal strength. Our Sentry is mostly average, slightly above average bravery, slightly above average awareness, but otherwise average stats across the board. And, well, it's a green, very green legion, where most of the stats are sitting around 4s and 1s and 8s. Engineering's probably our best initial stat. We have a decent potential across the board. So what I'm going to be doing as we go through this is whenever I think there's text worth reading, I'm going to go ahead and read it. So in this step we can be looking at the stats for our second command, the Sentry, or ourselves? No. Venus. Oh yeah, that's our last name. So we look at ourselves, the Sentry, or the second command. So our second command has no valor. The Sentry hasn't seen combat, and his equipment is reducing some things like endurance and stuff like that. And here is our stats. We've earned no valor, for example. There's not a single power left in the whole Great Sea that could contest Rome's hegemony. Several generations have passed since the days of Hannibal's War, which, as I brought up, I think this is the sequel to A Legionary's Tale. So Hannibal's War would have been Legionary's Tale. A conflict so total and dreadful as to eclipse any slaughter of the past. Carthage itself was destroyed decades later, almost a century ago. In the years between, the kingdoms of Macedonia and the Seleucid Empire, 2 of the most prominent descendants of Alexander's conquests, had been vanquished. In many respects, Rome had never been so strong. And yet, internally, the Republic began to show signs of the first cracks. The victories brought prosperity, but wealth was increasingly concentrated in the hands of the few. The traditional levy army that had won so many victories became less and less sustainable. Citizens had to meet minimum property requirements to serve in legions and provide their own equipment, but to serve in distant provinces meant being away from home for years. and let one's land fall to ruin. Many farmers came back poor from service, and to aggravate the detrimental imbalance, they had little choice but to sell to the large landowners. Their impoverishment also meant that less manpower would be available to feed the ravenous military needs of Rome. There were political attempts to address the situation, but they met the opposition of the senatorial class and came to nothing. Sometimes they even ended in violence. The presence of volunteers, often recruited from the poorest citizens, became progressively more frequent. The first prominent example was made about 50 years ago, when Consul Gaius Marius recruited thousands among the destitute for his campaign in the kingdoms of Numidia. Steady pay and a grant of land on discharge were a great attraction for those who were desperate and had nothing to lose. Their destiny became entwined with that of their commander. Their loyalty was to him, no longer to the state. A dangerous arrangement in a society with a ruling class, strongly driven by an individual competition. With Marius was an officer, one Lucius Cornelius Sulla, who proved extremely capable. They say a bitter rivalry was born between the two during those days. After Numidia, they both went on to become famous generals and heroes of the Republic. Then, exactly 30 years ago, Sulla attained a consulship and raised a large army to respond to the aggressions of King Mithridates of Pontus in the east. A campaign that promised rich spoils of war. When Marius used his political ties to supersede Sulla's command, Sulla left Rome and reached his legions. He played on the soldiers' fear that Marius would recruit his own army, that they would be disbanded. Losing the opportunity for minute plunder, he convinced them to do what even Hannibal couldn't do in the old days and march on Rome itself. The sheer horror of the civil war that ensued left a deep scar to this day. Rome was stormed twice again by the two factions, each episode surpassing the previous one in the atrocity. In the end, Sulla proclaimed himself dictator. Even after a decade-long internecine conflict and the death of Sulla, the situation remained tense. 20 years later, there is still fear among the elite that a man with enough resources and support might turn that strength against Rome and seize power by force. One such potential threat is Pompey, who in his youth had helped Sulla crush the opposition with an army raised at his own expense. Recently he has returned from the prosperous East after a string of victories that yielded enormous riches and made him by far Rome's most successful living general. Now there's Crassus, the most affluent man in the city besides Pompey. You live in Gallia Cisalpine, the region to the south and east of the Alps, mountain range, and immediately to the north of the province of Italia. It's customary, a new governor with proconsular authority was appointed in Rome to take charge here. What is not customary is that he was granted an extraordinarily long mandate that will expire in 4 years from now. His rule would also include neighboring Illyricum and the province of Gallia Transpalania. That lies beyond the Western Alps, and an important tract of territory to the south of Gallia proper. The vast land inhabited by many tribes outside of Roman authority, though these provinces already had a combined garrison of 4 legions. The 7th, the 8th, the 9th, and a 10th, a more than respectable force. The order to raise 2 more legions, the 11th and 12th, came as a big surprise. The news brought a major change in your life, because you were promoted to centurion to take charge of one of the 60 centuries, composing the 11th. About 80 men are now under your command. And we know in our case that it's 77, I think. It's not showing me what's here. All right. As you prepare to spend the next month transforming your recruits into versatile tools of conquest, rumors spread wildly about the intentions of the new proconsul. Whatever plans he has, this Gaius Julius Caesar must be a man of no small ambition. So, much like in a Legionary's Tale, we have periods of training. Unlike in that one, where you're basically clicking through options, this one's sort of a turn-based. We have 10 turns of training in effect. We can see some summaries, like the summary of our stats. And our current rank. So right now we're Ostius Posterior. And this all goes up to Pilus Prior, or Pilus Posterior, and that sort of stuff. Right now we have full health. The Legion century that we're in charge of, I think, currently has no fatigue. I think technically we have no fatigue as well. Our equipment reduces our endurance, quickness, coordination, and awareness by a little bit. And we, unlike our Legion, are actually fairly decently balanced in our training. If anything, we're a little bit behind in Javelin. But otherwise, we're sort of average. We're an average commander right now. And our reputation is fairly neutral because we're new to the position. Troops don't necessarily like or hate us. We're neutral in religion, have neutral integrity, have neutral valor, neutral humanitas, and we have neither raised the opinion or lowered the opinion of Caesar. Our century, on the other hand, is very green. With the potential, right, we're not even at the point where we get sort of the, I think 50 is the average sort of stat for a given combat skill. Our guys don't even have the potential yet to be average. And they're also very green, with sword being their second best at 8, engineering being a bit above average, but engineering is also fairly hard to raise, if memory serves, and the rest being pretty bad. Their physical stats are pretty much on average, so we're not going to worry too much about their physical stats, other than the fact we probably do need to set about solving those skill problems. We currently have an Optio. We currently have no Sentry staff besides the Optio. And we've got no Fallen, obviously. We can proceed in trade. Unlike the previous one, trade doesn't really take up any time. But we are only trading, as far as I know, for ourselves. So some of our equipment, the equipment can be quite expensive. Right, we've got like 300 equipment, or 300 money here. And you can see that some of this equipment's like 2,000. So it's not like we're going to be buying anything anytime soon. Equipment-wise. And there's a couple different things we can do to generate art for ourselves, which will raise morale, or luxury goods to improve my morale, detriment discipline, buy some slaves to help with mundane tasks, and make some fun opportunities for us and or our troop. But again, most of these are expensive, except for maybe the fun opportunities. As far as the inventory is concerned, we are armed with all equipment at all the slots. As we probably saw from the trade screen, we maybe didn't have the best in slots, but we have something in every slot. Our troops, on the other hand, are not fully armed. They're actually pretty similarly armed to what we would have been in a legionary's life. They are legionnaires, after all, so they've got the basic legionary garb. So no greaves, and they have sort of similar quality equipment to us at the moment. But obviously we have a nice crest and some greaves that they don't have. And then we get into training. So there's training for us, and there's training for the Sentry. By default, let's set everything to the minimum. Right, so minimum coordination training, minimum quickness, constitution, strength. We've kind of already worked out that our troops kind of have the expectation for strength, constitution, and quickness, so we're maybe not going to rush to raise those too much. When a skill is 32 or more levels below its potential, it receives a substantial training bonus each turn. Yeah, so if we go back to summaries for our troops, right? Our troops are 32 and below of, like, everything. So we're going to get a substantial boost to most of the training, at least as far as the skills are concerned. So let's go ahead and designate some training. This is our training, so sword, shield, javelin, personal, strength, constitution, quickness, coordination. Again, our personal sword training. Coordination also contributes to training endurance, and endurance. So these all help with endurance. We got a share hardship share hardships button here. If active, we gently renounce our privileges and share the hardships of our troops. Troop opinion will gain 3 levels each turn, but our discipline and training, our discipline and training will also get a boost. The downside is our morale stability is going to get reduced a bit. For the moment, we're not really too worried about our morale, so we probably want to actually turn that on. Education-wise, I am not necessarily going to go too hard on education. However, we'll completely neglect education for Gen transfer communities will decrease. So we'll toggle that on for 1 turn just so we can get some training in it. Administration is time working with the other officers, so we need to dedicate some administration time so the officers don't like or dislike us. We don't necessarily need to over-invest in this, unless I really want to get promoted real quick. Right? If we want to be promoted, it might be worth dedicating more time to administration. Supervision is sort of flip the other way around. It's like our time working with the troops below us. Helps us locate good troops to put in positions of power, so that they can shine brightly upon us. If we kind of go through all here, right? If we say, oh, we want to be average in everything, you'll notice we don't have enough points to put average in everything, right? So we gotta pick our battles. Can't do everything. I might, because I'm a commander, I might back off a little bit on javelining here so we can get the bonus from education for 1 turn, and then we'll turn education off and probably put it back into javelin. The troops, on the other hand, have slightly different sets. So they've got drill, sword, shield, javelin, other duties, right? So much like we could be training up with other people, right, to raise our opinion, we can also have our troops doing things that make them look good. Now, those other things also, in theory, help with engineering, right? So other duties are things like maintaining the camp and stuff like that, right? So we're going to want them to maintain the camp to some degree. And then I think we're going to go probably coordination. Quickness here. Or actually, no, let's do constitution. So basically, all the things they're really bad at, like our troops are green, so they don't have really good discipline. Our troops are green, they don't have a really good sword. Green, bad shield, bad javelin. Other duties we want them to be doing some degree of just keep everyone happy with us. Oh, I suppose in this case we could we want to do artillery training. I think we hold off on the artillery training for a bit. Artillery skill of your sentry benefits a lot from frequent training in proportion to the training points invested in drill. This comes with a slight penalty to other benefits of the drill training. For full strength translation, the penalty is about 4. Small size of the sentry, the higher the penalty. Okay, so actually I suppose we're at full, so we could probably toggle that on. Going in, we probably want to get some opinion from the troops, I suppose. Yeah. So we want to use the mandatory points, because otherwise we're not going to get benefits here. We're giving them a little bit of respite. I think I will give them a little bit of respite. So we get the troop opinion bonus. Not really worried about the strain right now. Okay, so that's going to be our training profile for at least this first turn, so we're going to press the next turn. So as we do the cycle of the turn, we have some effects happen to us, right? So in our case, we lost a little bit of morale. Not going to worry a little bit about morale loss. We got a regular pay, and the sentry gained all these stats. So +3 sword, +4, +4, +5, +5. So major improvements across the board for the sentry. And some morale stability has been applied. We've gained some administration, we've gained some supervision, and we've gained a little bit of education, which I think is enough for us to now go ahead and ignore education for the rest of the time here, and focus back on getting our javelin skills up. Go into the second one. Because of my training, I've gained 1 strength, constitution, 2 endurance, basically stats across the board. The sentry and our second command also got stats across the board. The sentry is also very rapidly, as you can see, gaining the stats it needs to do all skill checks, so sword, shield, javelin. As it gets closer to catching up, right, it's going to slow down. Launch an event. Legionary discreetly offers us 50s to Zarii for letting him dodge the most menial and strenuous duties for you. So, we could accept, which presumably would not be, how to describe it, would not be very good for our integrity. But we get 50 Caesarea. We could refuse, but let it go, which might make the troops happy or something like that. We could refuse taking disciplinary action, or we could refuse and inflict corporal punishment. I think we're going to refuse and take disciplinary action. We're going to not necessarily keep our troop happy, but we're going to have a higher integrity. So we now have integrity 20 or integrity 2, up from 0, because we've demonstrated that, like, yeah, we're not going to take bribes. During the next turn, we won a bet with our fellow Centurions, so we gained a little bit of money and gained some morale. Oh, yes, we gained some morale. Gain some stats, gain some troop opinion. As you can see, as the troops are getting better, they're training a little bit slower, but they are still training pretty quickly. Right, so what's happening is we were getting a bonus to training because we were so below their potential. As they get closer to potential, they're going to slow down. And in the moment, I suppose I'm not necessarily specializing anything, right? We're just saying, hey, all the sort of physical stats are weak. Train your physical stats up. Whereas I'm not worried too much about the stats. I'm worried more about the skills, and similar to me, right? I'm thinking, hey, we probably want skills. We don't really care about the stats for them. Friction with the locals. Sentry lost some morale. We lost some morale. Stat gains are still going well. This morning, our sentry is taking part in a mock battle. Lined up with the rest of the cohort, armed with button swords and javelins, the men wait in silence for the starting signal. The tribunes are watching. First part of the exercise involves basic maneuvers. Advance and maintain formation. So we're checking to see if we can maintain formation. The sentry keeps up with the rest of the cohort without too much confusion. Good enough for raw recruits. So the check in this case was meet 19 with the sum of ability, morale, and fatigue. Presumably this being a coordination check. So our guys had a coordination of 20, difficulty was 19, so this succeed. It is time to hurl the javelins at the marked enemy. So we can let every soldier throw independently, or we can do attempt a single well-coordinated volley. I'm going to go for a slightly more difficult one here. And we failed. So the difficulty was 21. Our ability was 19, so we failed, and we lost some opinion with Caesar as a side effect. Had this been a real battle, your men would have done more damage to themselves than the enemy. Oof. Close in and engage the adversary in hand-to-hand combat. The enemy formation is detached from the 9th, or it's a detachment of the 9th. Under normal conditions, your men would be no match for them, because the 9th is a veteran legion. But they've been instructed to go easy on the recruits. Your sentry holds its own, as it can be reasonably expected. So, success, 19, again, versus or 18 versus 19. The men have shown some shortcomings during the drill. Perhaps you should address them before they have to face real danger. Stats are going up. Stats are going up. It's at this point telling me it's time to appoint those new staff members. So we need a signifier. We need a Tesseraris. So I could technically appoint one of the eligible staff from below, but I think we're going to get one from things. So we're going to pick out a signifier. Melee skills and bravery are important for a signifier because he's got the banner. Charisma is also beneficial. So this is our bannerman. So we're going to give him his best ability is going to be his bravery. Give me the best bravery guy. And then 3 superior skills. Melee skills, charisma. So we're going to go sword, shield, charisma. Better than average stats are going to be his other melee stats. So strength, constitution, endurance, discipline. And his worst ability, well, we're being told the melee skills are very important, so we're going to give his worst ability is going to be his range skill. He's not going to be a specialist at throwing things at people. You don't want to throw in the flag after all. Okay, and then we're going to generate the character. So this is the stats of our legion, based on the choices we've made. it basically take a roll in this range to give us a randomly created character. So we said like, oh, we want his best stat to be bravery. So out of a 71 to 74, because of that saying that was best, we got a 79 or 74. So we basically max rolled on that choice. Charisma, we put that as sort of second best set. We didn't max roll there, but we got a higher than average. You can also see that the range, because we said the second best skills should be charisma, was a little bit higher than would be expected in our Legion. Our Legion is basically 50 across the board and a 53. Right? So. And then we need a Tesserarius. Tesserarius should have good discipline. Intellect ought to be at least a little above average, because I think this is the guy who's managing the books. Charisma and awareness have their importance too. Should have good discipline. So best in discipline, please. Intellect at least should be a little above average, and charisma awareness. Intellect, awareness, charisma. And then at this point, we've got just raw stats. This is a guy who may have to represent us in combat, so we probably want him to be able to sort of defend himself and stand up, right? So some shield skill. I think this guy more about not getting clobbered, so we're going to give him quickness, coordination, and constitution. Less so about attacking, right? So I didn't give him great sword, I didn't give him great strength, I didn't give him great endurance. I want him to live, not necessarily be the end-all, be-all of melee. And we'll actually make his worst stat strength. So he's not going to hit particularly hard, but he should be reasonably good at not getting hit. And to be fair, we said his worst stat was strength. He apparently decently rolled the strength. And there we go. So we've got our 3 current staff members. Linus, Lataeus, Aulus, Incitius, and Gnaeus Dulianus, who I've probably pronounced all the names incredibly incorrectly because my Roman is very bad. There's turn 9, so we can see our stats are still going up a bit. Turn 10, our stats are going up a bit. So this is the last turn in this training section. So because of the supervision, which is one of the reasons we've been doing supervision, right, we're getting a training bonus of about 5%. Administration is not super great. Can we sneak in a little bit of other duties? Yeah, I'm gonna give the troops a little bit of fatigue. Actually, we'll drop javelin a bit. Go super other duties so we can get a little bit more opinions for this last turn. I don't think I'll drop these to the minimum. Do another pass on administration supervision. So there we go. So we're up to 35 administration. We got full supervision for the turn. And we got 11 in other duties. So we can do 1 summary / inventory before moving on. We can just look at these. And we can see the banner carrier. I think the Baron carrier has a bear pelt. And then summaries. So not much growth in our base strength or whatever. And we didn't necessarily focus too much on making ourselves particularly great at combat. We are sort of above your expected average for sword and shield for your standard rank and file troop. We're nowhere near our potential, so we still have some growth potential there. Our discipline is pretty close to the growth potential. Oh, and our troop opinion, because we have been trying to raise our opinion, is 1 level up and almost 2 levels up. Integrity's 2 levels up. We did piss off Caesar a little bit, so we're dropped a level. And then overview. If you remember, I think our sword was second highest at 8, and engineering was 22. So engineering is only grown by 8, so engineering didn't grow very much. We did manage to grow sword. We basically tripled our sword skill. Still nowhere near the potential, and still nowhere near kind of what you'd expect from a troop. But from a green troop, this is reasonable. And looking at the time here, this is probably where I should go ahead and put the part break in before we get into real combat and want to finish a full combat. So if you're watching on YouTube, there will be another part up tomorrow because we're going to record 5 parts tonight. Well, 5-ish parts tonight. We'll see if something happens. I have to go for 6 or cut it short with a 4. But I'm planning on 5 parts tonight. So if you're watching on YouTube, there should be a part up tomorrow. If you're watching on Twitch, feel free to hang around. I'm going to put in a short part break-in where I stretch the legs, check up on the family. But once that's done, I'm going to be right back down here recording the next part. So until the next part, wish you all the best of luck and a good time. Catch you all in the next part, and bye for now.